Hi, my name is Mary Spender, and you are watching
Tuesday Talks.
And I am in Adam Neely's home studio recording bass for my new record. Tuesday Talks. I am in New York City, traveling all over the place these past few weeks, and you very happily obliged when I asked you to play bass on my new EP, which is not out yet, but this is a sneak peek as to the behind the scenes and the process, and just it's much better having a real bassist rather than me just playing bass and playing root notes all the time. So, are we going to go through what it takes to play bass on a record?
For sure. So yesterday I listened to the stems that you had recorded, and I charted them all out. So basically I heard the chords that you played. How I learned the music was I wrote everything out in Sibelius, all the chords, everything. So that today when we started recording, I could just look at the chart and just come up with parts. And we've kind of gone back and forth with, I played something, asked you, do you like it? Does it please you? And then, and we've just been recording today. We're just kind of finishing up with, what's the name of this song?
I Am Not Yours.
I Am Not Yours. So a big part of it is just kind of going back and forth, seeing what works once it's recorded and what works better in my head when I'm listening back to it. So a lot of it has been do you like bum bum, or do you just like bum? So this one section has been a lot of simplifying the idea that I initially had, and then sort of turning it more into what the recording should be.
You are the first bass player that I have worked with that has actually sat down and written it, written a chart.
Well, I hope to play with you again in the future, so that's my remembering the chart in the future.
that's definitely. It was a nice process to watch, and this is definitely the first record that I've ever done where I actually know what my sound is.
Like what you're going for.
And it's just an innate feeling now. I was working with a drummer in LA, and she was asking me questions, and I finally knew the answer. This feels like the first thing that I've done where I've sort of been playing such a long time and always been trying to sound like someone else or do something to please others, and this record really is just for myself and as a just like a concept piece, really. It's 6 tracks, and it tells a story. It starts relatively happy and then ends off angry.
It's interesting also, since in order to track the bass parts, we had to come up with a mix specifically for myself to listen to as I was recording it.
Yeah.
Because when you're recording something, you might need more drums or more guitar or more vocals. And it was an interesting moment just now where we turned on the overdrive on your vocals, where it was oh, this feels so right for this thing. And it's always nice to have a reference also for when you're recording. What kind of vibe are you trying to go for? And there's been several influences I've noticed. Jeff Buckley, definitely one on that one tune. The other tune, the Muse-ish.
Yeah, we went a bit Muse.
Muse-ish.
We went a bit Chris Wolstenholme.
Yes, he's awesome. And,
he is awesome.
It's okay to copy, or it's okay to have references for things, I think, as long as it comes together in the original soup that is you, your artistic voice.
Yeah, most definitely. And when we were trying to figure out the drum sound, I'm just obsessed with Sam Fender at the moment, this English songwriter, northern lad, who's writing very politically themed songs, but it's real guitar music, and I can only actually recommend that people go and listen to. He just won a Brit Award. He's not under the radar anymore. He's doing very, very well, but that sort of sound and that rawness, and
what do you mean by raw, real guitar music? As opposed to what we're doing right now.
No, I feel like this is real guitar music.
Okay, cool.
But he's releasing something. I might be controversial in saying this, but in England there's definitely a culture that is against guitar-led bands, and there's definitely alternative rock and that do that, but sort of the singer-songwriter doesn't necessarily move towards electric guitar naturally at the moment in England. Over
Right.
here, it's a very different culture, and obviously there are artists that defy that, and I'm sure people will introduce me to that. But
This is the internet, and they will
They
be
will
sure
definitely
to introduce-
educate me.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to just the sort of hearing sounds, realizing how it's made, and working with musicians that I admire. I was working with Rhett Shull as well on guitars, which at the moment he's only just done guitars for Darling, You Need Therapy, the track. And it's very slidey. But
It's the technical term.
Yeah.
It's very slidey.
but when it comes to actually recording bass, the thing as a songwriter that I've learnt to do is to kind of not listen but listen. So I was
You're
I
not
don't-
listening to
the
what
thing
I'm
is-
doing. I'm
well-
creating genius for your music, and you're not even paying attention.
but
Every
I am,
note I play is...
because I think with bass, obviously it's an integral part to the music. You have to have it, otherwise it's so thin and awful. But as opposed to just having root notes, I want you to do what you would do live, but something that's not distracting and annoying. So the best way is to kind of not concentrate, but be listening, and then my ears perked up every time you did something wrong.
Well, okay, so this is an interesting thing.
It's not wrong, it's just like not what I wanted.
Well, not wrong. I think you're
I
right.
mean, sometimes, play the right notes, mate, but...
Right. Hashtag. My friend Zach Singer, who you met
Yes.
the other night,
Just casually on, after him playing at a Broadway show.
the Broadway show, yeah. So he's a student of shakuhachi, which is a Japanese bamboo flute. And he was telling me in part of the interview I did for my channel where there's a style of shakuhachi playing where the entire point of it is to meditate and to play the sound of the room. And when he told me that was kind of interesting, because the idea is that you want to disappear into the sound of the room and the room becomes louder. And so I'm thinking more and more about the role of the bass player, as the role of the bass player is to disappear into the room of the recording, just disappear into the background, but make everything louder and more full.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, hey, that's cool. Shakuhachi is basically bass playing. I don't know. There's something about that. You finding like that nugget of wisdom in there of like your role is to make everything much bigger than it is. And anytime that your ear perks up, that's you hearing the sound of the bass rather than you hearing the sound of the room.
Yeah. And it's not
yeah.
always a bad thing. Sometimes your ear perks up, and I've said to you many times in the session, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Like, and that means it's a golden moment, and that's something that you have to then, put in.
And
It's
it's a weird back and forth, because whenever I'm playing live with musicians and they're doing something really cool, we'll go like, woo, and be like, yeah, I heard that, yeah, man. And it's a nice feeling to try and make another person say like, woo, yeah, check that out, yeah. But it's a weird back and forth with that, right? Because this is a recording, this is your song, we're trying to create something more than just the bass moment in this one point. I want to try and figure out the right moments to say like, here I am, here's the bass. But most of it is me trying to fill that role and fill the room bigger, personally, as a bass player, and hopefully as just a composer and an arranger in other contexts. Knowing the role of the bass is like important, because I'm not here to be a solo lead instrument. I'm just not. So.
Well, and having now worked with you, having worked with Beth Goodfellow on drums, and then Rhett, who all these guys, all have their individual things, and then they are very, very well-versed session musicians in all their avenues. And it was one of the things that I realised why I'd never made a good session musician, because I think I was always trying to be
Mary Spender.
I was always trying to be Mary Spender, and now I am very happy to be able to do that and be that artist. But actually, I feel like I would be and I have played session recently for someone, but I'm a much better session player now because I'm very satisfied in what I'm doing. And I think that's why it's quite exciting working with you, because like you are satisfied in what you're creating every week for your YouTube channel, but then you go out and you play these incredible gigs with loads of other musicians, and you're always educating yourself in terms of like what is on the scene, who is playing where, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and you're always learning. And I think that's a very, very important thing for musicians. Like, never get comfortable in an avenue, but you have to find your thing push yourself and drive your own personal career, especially in the age of the internet. But when it comes to working with other people, it's just like, just be a sponge all the time.
Yeah.
So the fact that you learnt that from this this player that plays this instrument that is just from another world.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's important to recognize that there is wisdom outside of yourself, and surrounding yourself with really amazing musicians and people, you can learn so much about what you
so
do.
much.
Yeah. And that's, we were having this conversation, like, I make YouTube videos. I could live anywhere in the world, but I chose to live here because I feel like I can have the people that teach me about shakuhachi and like why that's a role that the bass player could have.
Yeah.
I can learn many amazing things from many amazing people around the world, but for whatever reason, that's kind of like why I stuck here. So
yeah. And if I could live here, I definitely would for that exact reason, and just the eclecticism of the music scene here. But what I'm doing instead is now traveling around and meeting other people that I'm learning from for YouTube videos, and not just for YouTube videos. Like, making this record has been really, really cool. Like, starting off in LA and turning what was meant to be a strange, sad week into something incredible by just getting these songs out there. And I've already recorded the live EP version of this in Chicago, and that's extremely raw. Like, that is, going through it with Rob Rucher, the producer, I was just like, do I need to autocorrect? Autocorrect those vocals. Pitch correct.
Auto-tuned by Steve Jobs and not Apple. Oh, gosh.
Pitch correct the vocals, and he was just like, well, obviously you can. It's like separated enough that you can, but why would you? And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know why. And some of it's like really pushed, really like just in the moment, raw, messy. This record, like, it's not to a metronome the whole time.
Well, that was an interesting thing, just on going back to like recording bass on this, is you tracked this live with Beth, right?
Yes.
So the way you're singing and you're playing guitar and she's playing drums, and then I have to come in and replicate that sort of live raw feel. I mean, it's not really that messy at all. It's just there's a very particular kind of lilt that's going on.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have to manufacture that lilt. So I've had to go back and punch certain things, meaning like re-record a certain note just to make it feel ever so slightly delayed or ever so slightly pushed. But I think that's kind of the fun part in this whole like recording process, is like trying to recapture that while I'm here in New York and you recorded that in LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, because like we could see each other through a window. And although we weren't necessarily like looking at each other the whole time, being like, are you gonna play it this way, or are you gonna play it? It was just more like, even just seeing someone's body move while they're playing an instrument is a big signal. So you've done a great job by not having that, other than me like playing air drums on the side, being like, oh yeah, this is how I was like moving at that point.
You know what, honestly, what it is I can hear your breath before you can sing. And there's a big thing in conducting where the conductor breathes in. And so even just hearing your breath, it's kind of along the same lines, as I can almost follow it. Which is something that, that's something to keep in mind. Breathing is important when you play in a live context. Breathing is important just to get the right feel. Everything comes from breath. I feel like very like Japanese and Zen right now. Everything comes from the breath, and then the shakuhachi and fill the room. But this is the stuff that I'm like really thinking about. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's integral to performance, and that's why you go and see a live band, because like they're living and breathing together.
For sure.
But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little sneak peek into the process. I have no idea when this record is coming out. Like, that's the exciting thing about it. It's such a long form project as opposed to just putting out a video every week, and I feel like finally like a grown-up artist in one way, because I am working on music, but it's just taking time, and it's just like, it's kind of like the olden days of actually going into a studio for a really long time, and then they're just figuring it out, and I'm just like figuring it out whilst being on the road and just flitting around the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting process, and I don't think that any one record is recorded the same way. So you're doing it the right way, which is...
the right way for me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's nice to be creative whilst embarking on this journey. How cheesy.
I love it. It's a great ending to a video.
Yeah.
We should end the video right there.
Yeah, we should end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on this week's Tuesday Talks.
Well, thank you, Mary.
I think you're the first person to have been on it twice.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. I
Yes.
am so honored.
Yeah. But anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe to Adam's channel. He makes the best content.
Hashtag content.
And if you haven't subscribed to me, please do so and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you soon. Bye. Hi. Hi, my name is...
Cut to the cool thing where there's a guitar part.
Ding, ding, ding,
Yep.
ding, ding, ding.
Bass, 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 bass.